Hey everyone, welcome into the KCPN feature. We have Dave Ruggeri back in studio. Well, not in studio, kind of in studio. You're in a studio, right? We've got your amazing artwork back behind you. How have you been?
I've been well. I've been well. So it has been a little bit since we talked, and a lot has changed. But it's been a good summer. We're starting to get back to whatever the new normal is going to be, and it's been great to start talking to people again.
Absolutely. Have you been to some different festivals over the summer or have you just been local?
Yeah, no. So this summer, I did some traveling. So some of the main ones that I did was Jackson, Wyoming, and just a great place. It was the first time I've ever been out there, and it is so beautiful. You ever been out that way?
Yeah, I have. It's so nice.
It is so nice. It's also very expensive, but it that goes with it being so nice. Everybody
I
wants to
feel,
go there.
yeah, it has. I think it's been like 10, 15 years since I've been there. So I feel like it's probably changed quite a bit.
Yes, it is really, really crowded. Because a lot of tourists. Everyone's starting to come out of this COVID, kind of coma funk we've been in. So people are starting to travel more, and the weather out there is unbelievable. It's like 85 degrees, and there was no humidity, so it was nice not to walk outside and to not instantly start sweating as we do in the Midwest.
That's incredible. Yeah, because the Plaza Art Fair was just last weekend. And I know that everyone
Mm-hmm.
was just like, so many people. Everyone was ready to get out of the house. But I'm like, that's a
Right.
lot of people. And it's really, really kind of gross out. But okay, guys, have
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. So yeah, so that was a very good show for me. So I sold a lot of stuff, which is always nice, especially when you go to a place that's super expensive and far away. But it was also a nice change too, right? We turned it into a little vacation, and it worked out really well. And then from there, we went to Ketchum, Idaho, and did a fair there. And everyone was just ready to get out. They were ready to start, buying artwork and spending their money. And I think a lot of people have been kind of cooped up in their house for so long. They're like, I need to change it, right? I need new stuff
Yeah.
on the wall.
And there's only so much stuff you can buy from Amazon. It's like, it's not that
Right.
interesting after a while. You get the basics and you're like, okay, I need some actual like changes in my life. So art is always the best thing to welcome in when you're feeling a little bit stagnant.
That's exactly right. I mean, you can really customize, and make your place super personal, right? With you get something that nobody else has, which is always a good thing, right? And uh,
Absolutely.
and uh, yeah, exactly. And I think you're also the type of person that that knows that, right? Everything's got to be just reflect your personality and reflect what you're trying to do in the space.
Absolutely. And I think that it makes a huge difference when you have something personalized. So
Right.
going to those different locations, did you see a lot of, I don't know, I feel like you're very vocal about being authentic, true to your style, true to yourself. There's only one of you. And I believe that that's so strong because people can copy and imitate you. And I've seen it happen. Like it's been
Yeah.
very recent that I saw somebody come up with the exact same thing that I've been doing. And I'm like, what in the world? Like I think
Right.
it's flattering, but at the same time, it can get a little bit repetitive if you're just surrounded by the same voices, same faces, same people that
Right.
you've been around this whole pandemic to go out west. Now out west, we sound like we're complete like Oregon Trail out here, but not completely out west, but yes, out west to go out there and see different styles of art. What do you really kind of see about the scene with artists right now?
Yeah, what I see is that artists are really just happy to be back working, right? I mean, it was during the pandemic. Actually, overall, art is the craziest business you've ever been into, right? And I know you're into your own art medium, so you. I mean, this is just the whole umbrella of art and artists. It's just the craziest thing ever. And overall, during the pandemic, art sales have gone up, but that's just because the high end stuff has really, I mean, people are buying, $400 million paintings and stuff. So it's skewing the numbers. But, the artists that are grinding it out and, that are, mid tier, people are just happy to get back out there. And, one of the good things about the pandemic is that people have been creating a lot of cool stuff, and they've been at home, and they've been experimenting and pushing the limits and trying new things. And that's kind of just to when you're a creative person, you got to have an outlet for the stuff. And and that didn't stop during the pandemic. So what I have seen between the year before the pandemic and into this summer is just the level of work has really increased, and people are really doing some cool stuff. I think there's inventory built up. They're trying new things, and they're just so happy to get out there. I mean, everybody is just so nice and friendly. It's a community, right, of people that you've never met before, but because you have this connection, you talk, and you're sharing ideas, and I mean, and it's a lot like there's good people and bad people in it and everything. I don't mean like bad people, but there are people that are just more open. And I remember a couple of years ago, you start talking about, so, oh, that's really cool. Like, how'd you do it? And they're like, well, I'm not going to tell you. That's like my secret, right? And and now, people are just, I'm like, that's really cool. They're like, this is how I did it. This is where I got stuff. This is the mistakes I made. And, they're just, really ready to be part of the community again. And the quality of stuff is just great. One of the problems that I've had this summer is, I'm selling a lot of stuff, but I also come home because I buy stuff from other people out there too. So
That's good to have inspiration
really
around. Yeah,
it is.
absolutely. I love
It
that.
is.
No, if I were to go anywhere into anything that I enjoy, I'm going to come back with stuff. And it's like books are a huge thing lately for me. So I'm like, if I even get loose in a bookstore, it's over. So I think that
Yeah.
anything that you have an interest in that you're passionate about, it really shows.
Right.
And especially with the artist community, I feel like Kansas City has getting back there with the first Fridays. The mask mandate is continuing through October 7th, I believe.
Right.
But we've had a really big resurgence of outdoor festivals. I did get to go to First Fridays. I believe it was over, I think, May or June, a couple times. And it was really fun to see everybody back out and just kind of doing their thing. I think a lot of the stories that can come from the artist community have been dormant with everybody kind of being apart from each other. But did you get to reunite with anybody, or have you really been able to see a few people that you've been missing for a while?
Yeah, and it has been good. With just in my own little bubble here, right? Spending more time with my dad. He's 87 years old, and everyone got the vaccine. And I don't want to turn this into just a
Oh,
vaccine
you're
debate
fine.
podcast, but yeah, but I don't want the listeners to start sending me emails. But so we have all that, and it's been good. To where we're going out to restaurants and local places, and we've been to Kansas City a couple times, and we've done some First Fridays up there, and spent some time up there, which is good. We have family that's up there, so it's been good to be able to travel with a little less worry, right? It's still there, but with a
Absolutely.
little less. You do what you can, and you can get out there and start. You start to feel a little normal again.
Yeah, I left Kansas City for the first time in like 18 months the other weekend, and I'm like, I think I'm good. I think
Yeah.
everything I need is here. But even
Right.
like down to like it was a road trip, so even down to like rest stops and everything, it was so much cleaner than I remember it being.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, okay, this is a good start. And I think that especially Kansas City First Fridays does a great job of always making sure that it's a solid setup and it's got enough space. And it seemed like
Right.
over the summer, people were really conscious about that, and being outdoors obviously helps. So I'm looking forward to it. Jones Gallery is such a fun place to go. And I feel like not a lot of people really even know about it outside of the art scene here in Kansas City. And going there with people that don't really know anything about art, they were very overwhelmed with the decor, the things that they could see, the people that they could interact with. It's really fun.
It is. It is. It's fun. Just like you said, just the aesthetic of the building, right? I mean, it's this old brick building. I mean, it's probably been there. I don't know. I don't want to, give the wrong information, but
Yeah,
I
we're
mean, this
not
building looks like it's
historians,
been there.
but we're
Yeah, right.
enthusiasts.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, a building looks like it's been there for 100 years, right? It's got the old metal staircases and the brick, and it's really a cool building. Just got a feel to it, right? I mean, you can't
Mhm.
replicate that. If you tried to replicate it, you couldn't do it. It's just authentic old place, and they got different floors, and they have just a variety of artwork in all their shows, and they do a good job. And I'm glad to have some pieces in there. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's very pretty. And seeing the art scene kind of come back to life, what has that meant for St. Louis area? Have you guys really had an emergence as well? Not that I'm, talking greatly about St. Louis, but I did notice driving through there for the first time, like, all right, maybe I am just happy to be out of the house, but it
Yeah,
does look very
yeah.
nice there lately.
Yeah, it does, and it's the same thing. I think that's going. Kansas City and St. Louis. There's only 3.5 hours between us, so it's not a huge difference. But it is. it's the same thing starting to spring back. People are starting to go out more. There's a lot of things here. The Clayton Art Fair was a couple weeks ago, and I went to that as a consumer. Not I didn't show in that one, but it's just the people that were there, and I am showing in one in St. Louis this coming up weekend, Shaw, and a lot of people are just excited about it. I mean, people are talking about it. The weather is finally starting to, although today
And the
like
Cardinals aren't losing.
there.
Like they've won like 15 games or something in a row. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, 17. It's unbelievable, right? You think that at some point they gotta lose, but they've just been on fire, and hockey starting, and
Yep.
we won't talk about the Chiefs, but it's too early. It's too early.
It really is.
And but yeah, all this stuff starting to happen. Like you said, a lot of it is outdoors, and the weather's getting more mild, and it's not that unbearable high humidity, high heat Midwest stuff, and we're not into the ice storms yet. So people are really ready to go and do things, and just and communities have really done a great job of putting this stuff together. And these things just don't happen. I mean, First Fridays, the Plaza Art Fair. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and when you go somewhere and you don't really notice all of that administration, I mean, that just means they're doing it well, right? I mean,
yep.
And they just do it so well, and everybody's really been well behaved, regardless of what you see in the news. Everyone has always been, I mean, it's just nice, and it's good. It's good to get back to normal, kind of normal.
Absolutely. And I've always wondered, what does it take to prepare for an art show? Like, obviously, paintings and in whatever medium that artists use, that's always the most important part, is creating. But then how do you prepare to pick which pieces you're going to be putting out there, which you're going to be showing, and preparing to part with them too? I feel like that's a very personal thing.
It is. And it's, I was just in Detroit last week at an art fair, and, the same process I go through, right? I have an inventory, and I'm always like creating, right? So there's always new stuff coming in at various, parts of completion. But then you have to sit down. And you're like, okay, there's a limited space, right? So you're like, what do I want to take, and what do I want to, like you said, get rid of? I mean, there's a piece that I've had that I think is really solid, and it's above our couch. And every time I go to an art fair, my wife is like, you cannot take that, that's got to stay, so, so I'm like, but that's good. Someone's going to buy it. She's like, I know, but it looks so good in our house.
You're like, that has to stay here.
Yeah. And, and I like, all the stuff that I show is everything that I would hang in my house, and I really like, right? We touched upon this last time, when I was first getting into this, I made the mistake, which I think everybody does. You're like, look, I'm going to try to create a product that I think people want to buy. And I think that's the wrong attitude. And then I shifted quickly to, I'm going to paint stuff that I like, and I'm going to do it in my way, because I think it has more soul, it has more character. You can see you can see that, right? I mean, you've been in the business a long time, and when you listen to a podcast or some kind of media stream, and if the person's just like phoning it in, right? If they're just doing it because they think that, they're like, they just did that because that's what they think people want to hear, right? So, so everything that I show, I have a connection to, right? Now, there are some pieces that are just, I'm just more attached to than others. And I've had people, they say, how much is that? And I'll tell them, and they're like, well, I'll give you this for it. I'm like, I can't, I can barely sell it for the amount that I put on it. I cannot sell it for less. And there was one painting that one collector, she bought, and and she was carrying it away. I gotta say, I was a little sad. I was like, man, I cannot believe I'm not going to have that anymore, right? It's it's gone. And it's a unique feeling, right? I mean, it's good because it's a business, and that's the nature of it. But on the other hand, it's just like, man, I really wish I had that back.
Yeah, and when you create something so personal, you put so many like hours and so much energy into it. It's a very, very like tight knit thing. So I get it. I don't know. I don't have anything that people just take away from me. It's just kind of there for them to consume. So I'm still like trying to get my head wrapped around that concept. But when you put so many, like, I guess, I think it's the thoughts behind it too. You have so
Right.
much like depth to a lot of your work that has so much more explanations to it, especially with the endangered animal series. Like I
Right.
love that concept because yeah, they're like, "Oh, look at that. That's a great animal." Well, don't you want to see that for longer than just the next few years? Like
Yeah.
let's put some
Right.
effort into this. So, art with a meaning, I really love that about your work, and I really going into the more artistic process with a lot more creative people over the last few months. I think that artists need to understand that they are very welcomed in this community, in this world, because I feel like a lot are like operating from scarcity in a place where they're like, well, nobody wants this anyways, and it's like we all want to
Right.
see the beauty
Right.
and the things that people can create, because I get on the internet and I'm like, who did this? Even if it's digital art,
Right.
if it's a sketch, I mean
Right.
pencil drawings, doesn't matter what it is, but keep
Right.
creating. What how do you even just the last few months, how would you tell someone, hey, it's okay, keep going when they're at a block, they're at a stoppage? What was some words of advice or anything that got you through any sort of blockages creatively?
Yeah, and I mean, and that's, I mean, you make some great points in there too, and just the feeling of creating something is just so good, and I think that's lost in a lot of what people do on a day to day basis, right? Where you can't see where you fit into the big picture and things like that, and be it a podcast or a play or a painting, you start with nothing, right? And then at the end, you're like, this is the process, and there are times that are tough. I mean, it is a process and it is a job to some extent, and there are times where, like, just what if I can't think of something to do next, right? And I came up with this painting that I just finished, and I'm like, this is really really good, and then you start with well, what if I can't do that again, right? So my advice would be just to do it. I mean, and it sounds ridiculous and cliche, but just to sit down and just start sketching something, and and everything that you do doesn't have to be a masterpiece, but it's a step in the right way. I mean, every painting, like this painting behind me, this is a stretch canvas, and I got old comic books from the 80s and 90s, and I mounted it on the canvas, and then I painted on top of it, and that took me, I mean, just sketch after sketch. I probably did 30 sketches before
Wow.
I got what to do it. And the shortest time I spent working on this piece was actually putting the paint down. Right, it was the beforehand. So but every sketch got a little better, and it got more towards what the vision I had in my head. And that's what I tell people, and it's difficult, and I go through it too. You spend time, you're like, well, I want this, what I'm working on now, to be perfect. Well, it's not going to be, right. You get to refine it, you get to do that, and then when you're finished with the painting, then you go on to the next one. Then the next one's going to be a little better than this one, so on and so forth. So it's a journey, and I mean, I can tell you some advice my dad gave me a long time ago, and it's good. And he said, look, 5 years is going to pass one way or another. So are you either going to be 5 years better at what you're doing, or are you going to just stop now? I mean, you're going to get to that 5 year point at some point. So if you work on it, then you're going to be 5 years better. But if you stop, then you're not going to be. And it's, so you just
You're
got to
so right.
decide, yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm not going to tell him that, but yeah, he was right. and
No, of course not.
but and I think that that's important, is that you just got to do it. I mean, there's not anybody, an athlete, an artist, a physician, there's nobody out there that got to where they are because they stopped doing it.
Hmm.
They yeah, you have to just keep going, and the world needs people to create stuff, and it needs stuff that makes people smile, it gets their mind off things, or things like that. I mean, your organization has grown. I mean, last 6 months, we ought to do a podcast about you've done in the last 6 months.
I don't even know. It's been such a blur. I'm just like, is it June? Is it May? What day
Yeah,
is it? I
yeah,
was convinced, even this week, I sent my kids to the zoo with my mom and her husband, thinking that they didn't have school, and they definitely did. And I'm sitting here like, do I really have it all together, or am I just like getting by week by
yeah.
week? And you know what? It's like day by day, you just like
I
make
know.
little mistakes, but forgiving yourself is the best part. So it's like forgiving
That's
yourself for
exactly
those
that.
blockages, and it's like just getting back out there. And I mean, I don't know how many projects you usually have going on at one time, but I feel like I have way too many. So I feel like
Yeah.
getting down to just a few is always a good start to like kind of rein in the creativity.
Yeah, and that's right. I do have multiple projects going on just because my mind, my mind. I mean, we're just all over the place, right? I'll be halfway through a painting, and then something, will remind me or hit me, and I'll be like, oh, that's a great idea, and then I'll go and I'll start sketching it and stuff like that, and then you got to just tell yourself, listen, you can only have so many, you can have only so many irons in the fire, right? You
Yeah.
gotta, or I'm gonna have 100 paintings at some part of completion instead of, I carry a little book with me, and whenever I come up with an idea, I write it down, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm not going to forget it. I got it written down in this little list, right? And now the list is, I gotta cry. Now I got like 35 paintings, the ideas,
Yes.
now and stuff, and so, but now I know I'm not gonna forget that. So now I can finish what I'm working on now, and then I can then start on the next thing. And we just have a tendency just to look beyond what's right in front of us, right?
Mhm.
And every once in a while, you just got to take a deep breath and just say, let me just finish this one up, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, I don't know what finishing projects is really like. I feel like I'm just constantly adding to them as I go.
Right,
So that's
right.
incredible. I feel like that would be a really nice feeling to have. But I mean, you have to get inspired by everyday life because a lot of your work is from pop culture and just from everyday things that you care about and all sorts of inspiration. So you must be getting inspired constantly. I feel like if you're
Yeah,
doing something new, if I even start reading a new book, I'll just start taking notes, and I'm like, no, read the whole thing
yeah.
first. You can go back and take
Right,
notes another time. Just calm
right.
down.
Yeah, exactly. And being old, right? I have a lot of these memories that really date back, to it. And, the stuff will pop up, and a lot of the stuff that was old is becoming kind of in vogue again now, right?
Hmm.
And this is coming up, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, I remember that. And then it gets me down this memory lane thing. I'm like, oh yeah, a cassette tape or something like that,
That's
right? Or
amazing.
yeah, and then it just builds from there. But you can't, nothing's going to get done unless you just start something. So I think people
Absolutely.
just need to do it. Not that, I like the competition. I like more, I want more artists out there. I think that that's the healthy way to approach this, is that, you want more people out there because you want to be pushed, and you want to be driven, and you want to be, inspired. And, you don't want to like steal people's work, but, you need inspiration, and you need that kind of, push and motivation to do it. And plus, it's just great to see all the great stuff that's out there. I mean, like, again, like the podcast world, right? I mean, how many podcasts are there out there?
So
There's a
many.
lot.
I feel like I could
I,
start one in my sleep and people would just be like, that sounds about right. Like
yeah,
sleep
right.
talking. It's like, what is that even about?
Exactly.
Are there any
Yeah.
trends in art that you wish would just go away though? Like if they keep coming back or if you see things that are just like, oh my gosh, this again, that people keep revisiting. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a common theme through history, just things popping back
Yeah.
up.
There are, I'm not, I'm not a big fan of, because someone's going to start like, someone's going to send me some nasty email and say, I do that. And you said that that's
Velvet
terrible. But,
paintings. I don't know if that's still a thing, like velvet
yeah,
art.
what I have seen I have seen popping up more lately is that glow in the dark paintings, right?
Yes.
Like this stuff like that, right? And that was just never a trend that I got behind. But I am seeing that more and more, like glow in the dark stuff, right? And I don't know, I never really understood it, but that doesn't mean it's bad.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I didn't know if you had beef with still life or anything, or if you wanted to like say I don't like any
No.
of this concept. No,
Yeah,
because you
yeah, no.
combine so many different elements. I feel like with
Right.
obviously just right behind you with the comic books and with pop culture, there's still a message there, and I feel like those are very specifically placed because you had a vision of X, Y, and Z, and it's like nothing
Right.
is ever really, in my mind, nothing's ever really random or chaotic in the art world. It's usually there for a reason. So that's kind of a cool
Yeah,
thing to have.
yeah.
People always look at your work in different levels.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And how this all came about with my kids, they're starting to get older. They're 13 and 10 now, and we started going to, over the summer. We started these, this new tradition, right? We go to a different place every week for lunch that we've never been to before, to try a new place, and then we would also go to local comic book stores because I used to collect some comic books back in the day, and now they've really embraced the collecting comic books and stuff. So then that got all that going, and then that kind of grew into this painting. And
That's
I got a couple
amazing.
more. Yeah, I got a couple more that one. Actually, I just finished up this morning of the Punisher, which is I
Oh,
think it's going to be
wow.
a real solid piece, and I got some other ones too. And then I just got a commission. I got just a text an hour ago, so I went to Spawn commission now.
That's
So
so cool. Well,
yeah,
if you have any
yeah,
need for Conan the Barbarian comic books, I have a garage full of them. My dad just loved Conan the Barbarian, so that's what we have in excess. Which it's a very violent comic book. I didn't
it is
really
from what I
realize.
remember.
I was like, I didn't really understand what I was reading, I guess, when I was younger. But I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
look, it's cartoons. No, not so much.
No, exactly, exactly. Well, I'll take them. We're collecting everything we can get our hands on, so
I
I'll take
love
them.
it. I love it. Well, I'm so excited for this Friday. So, where is everybody going to be meeting you at? Jones Gallery?
Jones Gallery, it's at 1717 Walnut. It's down in the Art District. Again, it's outdoors. People are coming in more, and people are starting to get out. And yeah, make sure you stop by. A lot of great artists are there. You just come by and say hi. I got two pieces in there. They're you guys go to my website and all that. And you can see in there the Star Wars themes. I got a Stormtrooper skull painting and then a Boba Fett. And so those are the ones I was lucky enough to get in there.
That's exciting. And then we'll have all your tags and links on social media so people can go
Yeah.
find that. And I'm just very excited for you to be back Kansas City, and hopefully we'll see you more this fall and we can go from there because we should be there on Friday night. So
Okay, great.
we do have our studio right in front of Jones Art Gallery. So there's no reason we can't just walk on over there and celebrate some art back in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and then everybody, just get out and go. Artists are small businesses too, and everyone have something original hanging on their wall. I think really is important for the context of somebody's place and their environment.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dave, and we will talk to you soon.
Hey, always a pleasure. Anytime.